Welcome back to Uplink. I'm Andrew.
I'm Royden.
And today we're going to be covering some of the latest gaming stories across the industry, starting with the announcement of Sony's PlayStation VR2.
Yeah, this comes on the heels of everyone and their mother buying an Oculus over the Christmas break. You were shocked by that, but I swear that everyone that I have seen has an Oculus from Facebook, which I didn't know, which is weird. But this comes on the heels of that. So what is it about this that sets it apart?
So there's a lot going on with this new headset. I actually looked into after I was like, well, no, really, people aren't that into VR yet. They got a 10 million person deep install base on the Meta headsets.
Really?
So, yeah, it's I mean, I knew that there were about 10 million or so original PSVR units out there, so I'm not that surprised by it. It's still far away from being, large market consumer ready. For instance, there were 100 million PS4 sold, so that's only 10% of its install base actually invested in VR.
Well, to be honest, though, too, with supply chain issues and everything else, and how terrible of a rollout both the Xbox and the PlayStation had, this kind of isn't really that much of a surprise. But then again, it is VR; it's going to be slower, like it just always has been.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's kind of where a lot of the uniqueness for this announcement comes from, because they had the benefit of using CES as a stage to announce a whole bunch of technology, but they didn't have to let people have hands-on with the technology, so they got to say whatever they want and not really
not back it up at all.
Everything that they announced is based in technology that they've already been using, so I have no doubt that all this stuff works exactly as they say. But it is a little easier to sell people on something like this when you don't have to have people reporting their hands-on impressions with it.
And remember when Xbox tried to sell you the Kinect?
Yeah, and you bought it.
Yeah, you did. But this feels a little different. This feels like it's more even more user friendly than the original. And I remember and we're talking about PlayStation, but I remember at Baylor they were testing the original Oculus. I think back even maybe when or even something that had to do with Google VR as well too, and they would pay you as a student, like a test subject. As a test subject to come up and test the original Oculus. And my cousin went and he volunteered and he did it. He said it made him absolutely the sickest he's ever been while playing a video game. They since have corrected those bugs, but it's funny to see where we come from there to now that more and more people are trying to buy this.
That's kind of like the weird phenomenon that I was why I was surprised by the install base being as large as it is, because something like 20% of the population suffers from some level of motion sickness. There's a good 15 to 20% of the population that suffers from just vertigo in general, so that's already a good chunk of people that can't play. It's not recommended for kids under the age of 12, which that has not stopped parents.
I don't think that stopped anyone.
Trust me, don't give it to kids under 12. They don't. Just don't do it. It's bad time. It's a real Wild West place out there, and it gets real weird real fast for some places. Don't give your kids.
Or if you do, you have parental lock features that you can also.
I was a kid once. I get it. I'm sorry, but your parents should not buy that. They shouldn't buy it for me when I was a kid, and they shouldn't buy it for you.
But you're an adult with adult money. What's different with the PlayStation now that is attracting more and more user bases?
The PSVR2, it's got a lot of really cool features built into it already. They pretty much addressed every issue I had with the original PSVR. So to start with, the display is a lot higher resolution. They did a split down the nasal kind of display last time. It was high HD, but not quite into the 4K or even 2K area. I think it's 1920 by 1230p or something like that. Pretty low frame rate overall for most of the games. Had to keep about 30 frames. There wasn't a lot of speed to it, and it was bulky as hell. It was, you're talking about that much of your face covered up, and then a strap that goes across the back. Plus, you need to wear a headset if you're going to wear, listen to audio, and then you got 4 cords coming out the back of your huge skull.
You're in the Matrix.
You got 6 feet of cord, so you need a whole room to play. Which you should still have a whole room to play. Don't play VR in small spaces. It's a bad time.
You saw that with the Wii.
Yeah.
People
Just
breaking
like
their
that,
TVs for the fun of video
where the
games.
TV is.
Right, exactly.
So yeah, this is an OLED 4K HDR10 supported display. It's going to have 2 separate eye displays, just like last time, for a total of 110 degrees of field of view, which is a significant improvement over the, I think, 87 or 89 degrees that the original had.
Not seeing with a fisheye lens, more or less.
Yeah, where you're getting more of a true view of the world around you, and it makes so that they can have a lot more general interaction with the surroundings. The resolution of each one of those eyes is going to be 2000 by 2040, so that's pretty solid visuals overall. Probably, I think the coolest thing that they have in this new headset is they've addressed a lot of the issues with tracking and the need for cameras and a lot of the weird kind of like one-to-one head tracking problems that have happened that causes things like motion sickness.
Mm-hmm.
They've added eye tracking, just full on, like follows your eyes as you're going. I don't know how they're implementing that. Like,
we're dumb people. We talk about things that smart people do.
Yeah, I mean, did I make eye tracking? No, but I have eyes.
Yeah, that is a fact. But the thing that I'm interested to see is how many developers and studios start to really put more time and money into this, because like Oculus has a head start on some of this stuff. I don't know. I think your Oculus comes. Somebody's gonna yell at me in the comments, but like, I think Oculus comes with a set amount of games, but you can upload, or you can download rather, dozens of games that they already have built in for it.
There's a lot of free games available for the Oculus. There's a lot of free games available for the PSVR. The difference between the two really is that the Oculus is PC based, so it's got a lot more of an already there install base. You've got a lot more ways to connect with your friends through Steam, through the Oculus Store. You have to log in through Facebook, which is unfortunate. You have to sign up with Meta. You must become part of the metaverse. Yeah, a term I have grown to hate and will continue to hate, and you can't make me not hate it.
Right, exactly. So it's just interesting to see how much time it just feels like Call of Duty is destined to
there's a lot to be done before like we get solid first person shooters and stuff out of this. But I think the integrated tracking in the helmet, where they've added different types of cameras and monitors into the sides of the helmet to help keep track of your head's actual position in relation to like the body, and it can scan the room to get kind of a rough 3D scan of your environment, so it knows where you're at. The increased frame rate from the 30 that we were talking about before up to 120 hertz this time around. I think that's really going to help. Probably my favorite thing that they've done here is the new controllers, which are more in the style of the Meta's
wands,
and they're touch controllers. I don't know what they call them. I can't remember. I have very bad memory. But they're more kind of like a grip with a circle at the top, with thumbsticks at the back. But they've got triggers using the PS5's adaptive trigger technology to give you more of a haptic feedback sense on what you're doing, so you can actually feel whenever you're gripping something. You can feel the different intensity of the grip. You can feel whenever you're slowly pulling back on a trigger or a gun, or if you're pulling back a bow, all kinds of cool stuff like that. I think that's going to make a real difference in the way that you feel like you're connected. Because for me, when I was playing the PSVR, I would get in there. After about 30 minutes, I would be pretty immersed, but occasionally it would ask me, like pop up an indicator, like, "Hey, take the wand and do something with you remember the wand that's in your hand?" And then I'm just like, "Oh yeah, I forgot." I'm in a game.
The whole experience of VR is to try to be immersed. But the thing that if you haven't played the PS5 yet, which a lot of people still haven't, it really is the controller is the best part of the PS5.
Yeah,
by far. The PS5. The frame rate and everything, and what you're able to do, and how games have started to look, are really great.
Yeah.
But where they really made leaps and bounds was the haptic feedback on the
trigger. The first immediately out of the gate thing that you recognize is that is some next gen grade A gaming right there. Is that haptic feedback on those adaptive triggers, and so much so that Microsoft is already investigating putting them into some kind of either modified Xbox controller.
It really is. Like it is the one thing that kind of stands out, and you even got that like with the install game, the Astros Playhouse or Playworld or whatever that you get. Is like, hey, check out all these new cool things, and not the PS5, but like that your controller can do. And it is
feel
really
the rain. You can
so
feel the tension on stuff. I mean, it's not just the triggers. The whole controller has haptic feedback in it. It's super cool.
And so to be able to put that into VR, I think is going to go a long way with maybe looping or going past what Oculus has done. And of course, Facebook has more money than King Tut or God, and they
God, famous trillionaire.
Yes, absolutely. But it will definitely. This is going to be an interesting race to me, and the fact that Microsoft's like whatever right now. We had Google, the box one.
Microsoft's got more money than they know what to do with.
They'll figure it out.
I mean, that's kind of where they. I thought I messed my mic up. My bad. That's kind of where they get most of their driving force. They didn't like everyone's like on Microsoft doesn't compete with PlayStation, Xbox. Well, they're not. They're Microsoft. They made every computer you've ever owned for the most part. They are the reason that this system we're on right now is working.
Yeah.
They don't need to compete with Sony. They just need to stay in the game. And so until VR becomes a massive source of problems for them, from a money standpoint, I don't think they're going to get invested. But I think
in 2030, when your kids are asking you for like which one, like when you have to go ask your kids like which one you should buy, like that's when the conversation will happen. But right now,
they'll skip VR and go straight to AR and just augment actual reality, or they'll just create magic. I don't know. Black magic is probably something Microsoft can do. We don't know.
What else we got on the docket?
But so the last thing on this PSVR2 thing is I think they've made the best thing Sony's got going for them out of the gate on this is they've taken the PlayStation approach to content, and they are now shifting some of their first-party studios, portions of the teams that they are known for crafting these mastercraft, highest quality single-player experiences, and pushing them to create stuff for VR in tandem with some of the new studios that they've acquired. So the first game they announced for the PSVR is a Horizon Zero Dawn or Horizon Forbidden West now spinoff called Call of the Wild. Looks super cool. We got exactly 5 seconds of footage. So told me that there is a boat and you can see a machine.
It's gonna be incredible.
Yeah, 10 out of 10. Speaking of virtual reality, though, E3 announced this week that they are making the move from in-person event for this year again back to a digital event, and they say that this is because of concerns over the Omicron variant of COVID. But let me tell you something about E3. It's been on its last legs for a long time. In no small part to it just not being really relevant anymore.
That's a shame.
But it started back 2015, 2016, whenever EA and Sony and Microsoft, no, not Microsoft, EA, Sony, and Nintendo kind of pulled away from doing events at E3 to do their own larger things where it was just about their stuff. They didn't have to share the floor with anyone else, and they could do it the same week as E3 at whatever time they wanted. They didn't have to wait till it was their turn on the docket.
They didn't have to share a stage with a bunch of other people.
Yeah, and then also E3 is just kind of like a weird, toxic environment a lot of the times. They also accidentally doxed something like 1,200 journalists, so that was cool. They just,
in fact, it wasn't cool.
It was super uncool of them to leak everyone's, home addresses and phone numbers and stuff. Because I don't know if you know this, sometimes gamers get very upset, and unfortunately, some of the very, very small portion of the gaming community, but enough that it's annoying, get so upset that they will send death threats to people. And if they find out where they live, they will send them directly to their homes over video games. And this is where we're at.
So E3, for the uninformed, if you're watching this, thank you. But like for the uninformed, E3 was the predominant gaming award show or reveal show.
Yeah, it's
for multiple.
It's a consumer show that is meant to show off industry announcements and stuff. It's been heavily, scripted events. I mean, go look up E3 cringe compilation on YouTube. You'll get the gist. There's a lot of very awkward moments, but it's very put together press events.
Yeah, but for me, I mean, it was the, especially when the PS4 was dropping and like I didn't have anything better to do. It was like I need to know what is coming to the PS4 and everything.
Yeah.
I think that's probably where it peaked, and you say it's been downhill.
Yeah. So I mean, the last time I felt something was at
in general.
I can't
just at all.
I can't say I had several kids since then. Two kids, not several. I had 2 kids since then. I'm not going to say that the last time I felt something, but the last time E3 made me feel something was just in case she's watching it.
Right.
The last time they did something cool was back in 2016, where Sony I think it was the last year that Sony did participated in the conference with them. It was silence. They're in this theater, and then all of a sudden, live orchestra comes to life. They start playing the familiar beats of the drum and the strings and the horns hitting hard, and you go, I know this song. Where did I know? That's the God of War theme song. Yeah. And then they walk out and they say, "Ladies and gentlemen, God of War," and then the trailer starts. And I've never heard a more visceral reaction from an audience full of both gamers, but largely press people.
Yeah.
Than when Kratos walked out of the shadows and said, "Boy."
That is.
It's not what he said, but he might as well.
Yeah. And that just used to be where, like, for anyone that is watching, like, anything from that to like, that definitely was. You used to watch all of that just to see like 2 seconds of Call of Duty.
Yeah,
that was it. And that was, and hopefully you've been hearing me because my mic went off. Anyway, so you used to watch all of that to see like 2 seconds of Call of Duty gameplay.
We'll fix it in those.
Yeah, and it just was. That is what you would watch, and then you'd be like, then it would just go viral on Twitter every single time. So it being on its last legs, I mean, it is kind of a changing of the guard, but these companies hold all their own power, so it's
a good and bad thing. For a long time, I think the ESA was heavily believing that E3, which ESA is the money behind E3, they believed that E3 was a paramount part of the gaming community. It was important for driving sales, but it was also like important for them to have people want to be there. They made companies feel like that was the only way their game was going to matter, was to be announced at E3. So it was important until it wasn't. Whenever everyone realized that they actually can just announce, now that the internet's a thing and YouTube's a thing and Twitch is a thing, like, you just announce things whenever you want. Like, I send out a tweet right now and announce God of War 9. I mean, it wouldn't mean anything, but I could do that.
Yeah.
And so they realized that they'd have more control, more time, and more, freedom.
Sony will just drop these trailers at like 9 o'clock on a Tuesday night.
Yeah.
I don't really care. It doesn't matter to them.
It does matter to them in that they want to hit the most audience, but they'll do it in a way that they know people are engaging with through YouTube. I think Nintendo kind of pioneered this whole idea by doing the Nintendo Directs that they started doing back in 2015, 2014. And now Sony does State of Plays, and Xbox does like these check-in events every few months. But I think the thing that kind of stings the most is that with the dying of a colossal giant like E3 comes the rise of many much worse overall, poorly put together gaming conventions. There will be a lot of them once this pandemic is kind of passed. It will happen. There will
that don't have the same funding or
There will be
anything
a ton
else.
of people just gathering like 9 indie games to talk about those 9 indie games, but then charging like E3 prices to get in, and then it's going to be ridiculous. That's the downside to this. But I think that the larger companies having their own thing going on, not needing this, and even Jeff Keighley, who does the Game Awards, he famously during the pandemic got a whole bunch of people together to do. I should probably extend.
Nah, we got 5 minutes. We'll knock it out. But so they got that all together. But what's our final thing on the docket here? Something also involving former Facebook gaming, which
so
near and dear to my
on from that gravestone over there. We're going to talk about one of the craziest deals I've seen in a long time. Take-Two Interactive, the publisher behind things like Grand Theft Auto and Bully and Red Dead, bought Zynga for $12.7 billion.
It's a lot of GTA Online money.
Yeah, and to put that into perspective, for the size comparison here, so Microsoft bought ZeniMax and Bethesda and all of its subsidiaries for $7.1 billion last year, and I thought that was an insane asking price.
Real quick, what is that gaming studio known for?
They make mobile games like Farmville and Words with Friends. They've done a lot of stuff. They have their hands in a lot of mobile games, but those are the ones that are most prominent. We have no idea what they're planning to do with the studio, why they bought it. I know that they had announced a few years ago that they were looking into the mobile gaming market. It is a large market. There's a ton of people that game.
I think it makes more money than AAA games.
I mean, it does a lot of the stuff. The models are designed for you to get wrapped in a cycle where you pay to keep getting to play.
Everyone knows a mom or a friend or a kid or someone. I say moms because I say moms because it's like all of a sudden you'll hear they're like, I was addicted to Candy Crush.
Yeah,
and they have paid so much money. I am running out of microphone batteries here.
All right.
So anyway, they have paid so much money to be addicted to these games. It is crazy that they will be. Yeah, they are going to be able to. The Clippers, a National Basketball Association, sold for $1 billion like 5 years ago. So
that just put that in perspective. That's an insane amount of money. No one should have that much money. We're running out of time here, so we're going to wrap this up. I'm excited to see what the PSVR2 ends up being and what everyone does with it. I'm sad to see E3 go, but also saw it coming from a mile away. We'll see what happens with that. Jeff Keighley's apparently got it in the bag, so Summer Game Fest is coming back this year again, which is also a digital-only event, but, he's got friends everywhere. He's best friends with Hideo Kojima. So,
sick brag.
Yeah, I guess. And this weird thing with the Take-Two buying Zynga, that's bizarre, but I'm excited to see what they do with it, because it could be something interesting. Maybe that's where Bully 2 is going. I don't know. For Hardwired and Uplink, like and subscribe on YouTube and follow us here on KWTX Extra. I'm Andrew.
I'm Royden. I'll get batteries next time.
And we'll have batteries next time.